The Toyota CHR. It's been around for a few years here in Ireland. It's been a reasonably good seller. This is a revised version that's now on sale in 2020 into 2021. It's not quite the size of a Qashqai or a 3008, and it's a little bit bigger than something like a T-Cross and maybe the Captur from Renault, but I'm not quite sure. But it's a little bit dearer. Now this version in the UK would be an orange edition. You've got bitone, you've got sol, you've got all the usual Toyota specs, and this one has everything like blind spot and cross traffic alert and upgraded black alloy wheels and this nice burnt orange colour. But for the revision of the car, they've changed the headlights a little bit, little pin spot, fogs, little front nose, slightly revised. I don't know if you'd on first look notice it straight away, but there are some little differences. Revised models of the CHR in the back get LED sweeping indicators. No fakeness going on here. It's just a couple of chrome trims on this particular model, but again, there's no exhaust or pretending there's an exhaust there. Bigger spoiler on the back. This lip two-tone, if you go for it with the black and the orange, looks good, but overall it's kind of business as usual compared to the pre-facelifted CHR. Now the boot is, it's big in the sense that it goes in here nicely, but there are some drawbacks in this boot. You see, Toyota have kind of gone with no gimmicks here. The rear bench doesn't move into the front, and this parcel shelf doesn't fit underneath this luggage cover, but there are little pockets that you can store stuff in down here. There's a little small lid that goes over your normal battery for the car, and there's a spare tyre changing kit and more stuff. But if you lift this area, there's nothing going on there either, but I do like the fact that you can store little pocket things there and you can hide them out of sight, and there are some little hooks for catching on to things, and so it's reasonable, but it's not the most impressive boot in this segment of car. And you will be pleased to know that yes, of course, these seats come down and they're actually very nicely flat there. That's impressive. There's little ridges here to stop that belt coming over the edge and getting caught when you put the seats back up. That's very nice. That's a nice little touch, that. You do have these door handles which are fine for adults, but they're just a bit higher up if you're a small kid, and that might annoy you. The boot, easy to close. What is the back like? Well, there's some nice things like easy to access child locks on the backs of the doors, and there's something very nice which I'll show you in just a second. If you have bottles and stuff to store in here. Not strictly a two-seater back here. There's room for a third person. Decent leg room. The seats, front and passenger, sit up nicely off the floor so you can tuck your legs under. Middle hump is not too big. Don't get an armrest. The sloping roof line does impede a little bit here, but I don't have a huge gap here, but there's a gap. Maybe if you're over 6 foot, that wouldn't be as comfortable. They have put the bench down pretty low, considering the fact that it's sitting on cells. So I think they've done as much as they can with it. The windows, they go down all the way. These new improved driver and passenger seats, a little bit wide, very comfortable in the front. I'll demonstrate that in a minute. But some people suggest that this kind of enclosed feeling can make kids feel car sick at times. I think they've managed to just about make them wide and still give you decent visibility. I think it's quite snug down here in a nice way. I mean, these come up high, so smaller kids on boosters and stuff may not be able to, I don't know, see as well as I can. Obviously, little storage areas back here. They're actually nicely deep. Nothing there to charge anything with, and not so much as a sniff of an air vent. So Toyota, I'm gonna have to do you for that one. But I love these little storage areas for bottles, chili bottles, whatever bottle you want. Maybe you're old school and just like a plastic bottle of whatever. They'll sit in there and they'll be very, very snug. And I like that. It's good. Let's check up the front. Oh yeah, and you'll get 2 car seats for kids in here, no problem. 2 Isofix too. Something I love about the front is on the inside, more importantly, it's still metal, and it's just black, but it means you don't see the orange of the car on the door frame here and in here, and it gives it a premium feel that you'd normally get in a more expensive car. Little diamond cuts here as well, because there's a bit of a diamond theme going on throughout the car. I like what you've done with the door of the Toyota. Well done, top marks for that. Anyway, let's have a little look around. more diamond cut things here. One other thing I will say is a lot of cars in the segment, this bit is covered by the actual door. In the CHR it's not, so when you open the door and the car is dirty down here, it's going to catch in your leg. Thankfully this one's clean though. First of all, can we please have a moment? Android and Carplay, they're here. They're in the Toyotas now as standard, even on the cheapest models, which is amazing. That was a big thing. This one has a JBL sound system, which is pretty good. Your climate control, ably assisted by these buttons here, and you get your heated seats, and you get really easy to touch controls that actually just turn the air up and down. You do not need to go near that screen for it. The screen is reasonably easy to use. You've got big chunky buttons that bring you into the shortcuts like home and menu and track and phone and setup. They're all there and pretty easy to use. This version of the revised CHR also feels a bit more premium. There's more stitching, there's more brushed aluminium and polished piano black. And the storage under here is okay. And there's a little fiddly bit that I think you can twist it, and that means you can put a bigger drink or a smaller drink into your drinks holder. To me, that's just going to be something that's going to get lost. But anyway, 3 buttons here to change your modes and your traction. Another bottle storage down here. Little USB here for charging, and there's a shelf that is not going to fit a modern phone. These dials kind of let it down. In such a modern, futuristic, hybrid car, they're dials and needles, and yeah, you get a colour display in the middle, but it's just a bit, I know, just doesn't really suit the car. These upgraded seats, man, they are comfortable. They were comfortable to begin with. These seats, and I mean this, would not be at a place in a Celica or a Supra. They're genuinely bucket deep bolstery. I love this steering wheel. It's got bits of piano black again on it, and you might, whatever trim you have will be there. Just don't get wood. But it's huge. Not in a massive way, but it's grand. It's grand, as we say. Yeah, it's very functional, does what it says, feels less Toyota-ish than in the past. By that I mean nice things. It feels a bit more premium, you know? It's not as boring as they used to be. When you're driving the CHR and you're not using huge amounts of power, it's all very quiet. Exactly like an EV. You get that little whine out of the engine, and you sit here in total silence and you're minding your own business. Then you go over a bump like that, and it's all very smooth. Then as soon as you power away to build up the power from that slow moving piece of driving, it gets noisy, like revvy noisy, just for those brief seconds until the car then regains normal cruising speed and everything calms down again. And that really is the driving characteristics of any Toyota hybrid engine that you'll drive. Under load, noisy and sounding rough, and then in normal driving situations, it's just nice and calm. When you're in a roundabout, you feel its height, and maybe it's a bit of its weight as well, that you just feel it shift a little bit, and generally Toyotas handle very well, so I think the added height of this just, you know, puts it into that crossover category where it's not really meant for chucking around corners. If it's a car that's going to spend a lot of time in traffic, this is going to be really easy on fuel. It's doing almost 50 miles per gallon, about 5.5 litres per 100 kilometres, depending on which unit you use. And from a full tank, you're going to get about 600 kilometres, give or take. I've no doubt if you drive this car like Miss Daisy, you will get better figures than that. And that means you could potentially see maybe 60 miles per gallon. It just depends how easy your foot is, and obviously the style of driving and the type of journey you do. But overall, it's very economical. And as I sit here, it's just silent. All revised models of the CHR come with the ZEV driving data, which tells you how much of your driving journey has been in electric mode. And if I pull away now, as the lights go green, gently enough, it stays in EV mode, and it's just totally silent. And that's what I mean, if you're constantly doing that, it's only when you get to maybe 50 kilometers, you will feel some input from the engine. And the way it gets the charge back into the battery is pretty much regen through the braking energy of the car. There's no plugging in, there's no charging anything, and in that sense it's not a PHEV, it's obviously an electric, it's a self-charging hybrid, which is marketing lingo really from Toyota, but they've done it for so long with the Prius and stuff. They're just so famous for it because Prius is around, give or take, 20 years now. So it is a very smooth car to drive, and it's a nice car to be behind the wheel of. Everything feels comfortable, everything feels premium to the touch. Your visibility, because you're in that higher seating position, is really good. Obviously out the back it is a bit more squished in the design of the car, and you'll see that in the rear window visibility. Thankfully your rear view camera is obviously well up to the job. And in this 2-litre version of the car, you can get the 1.8. You're getting over 184 brake horsepower in this one, and that means it's fine. Like, there's plenty of power, and for that performance with that fuel economy, that's a pretty good combo. I do think this difference of 60 brake horsepower is going to make all the difference. If you have this car with 4 people in it, bit of stuff in the boot, this car never really feels underpowered, whereas 120 odd brake horsepower might just feel a little bit sluggish and lagging in that sense. And this stop start carry on that does everyone's head in is going to be nice and easy on the juice, even though you're driving a 2-litre petrol. That's a little bit of that engine noise there now, but even still, it really is a short burst. I don't think it's going to bother the majority of drivers. They may not even notice it. The suspension setup in the car, that is a really super job because it's very, very smooth. This is upgraded alloy wheels. It should feel more bumps than it does. It shouldn't be as smooth as it is perhaps with the sportier setup, but it is. Even on the tyres in this car, which don't have huge amounts of profile, it's quite forgiving. So the suspension setup is really, really good, and more comfortable than something like perhaps the Ford Puma or the Nissan Juke, particularly on those bigger upgraded wheels that I had on the Juke a few weeks ago on the channel. Bonnet, you're not quite sure how much is on that because you can just see the top of the bonnet and then you've no idea where the front of the car is. And the sensors all around, depending on which model you go for as well, so that makes it easier. But as this style of gearbox and hybrid engine goes, it's pretty good. I'd still love it to be a little bit smoother sounding when it needs to, but overall, for a city car especially, it's going to be a smooth enough experience for you. One to consider: not the biggest, may not be the best looking, but that's kind of subjective, that's up to you. There's no doubt there's clever options in some of the competition now, such as that mega box boot in the Ford Puma and the movable rear bench in something like the T-Cross and the Renault Captur. As I always say, most of these cars have different things going for them. You're better off narrowing it down to maybe 3 by watching these video reviews or these style of reviews on YouTube, and then, you know, getting your 3 or 4 and then physically going and checking them out. That is my advice to do. They are today's observations on the revised Toyota CHR. Starting from 32 grand, it is a bit dearer than some of the crossover competition. Things like the Ford Puma that starts in the 24 mark. So it is quite a bit dearer. You're paying a premium for a Toyota badge. No doubt they're reliable, solid cars that will last forever. And Ireland just has the thing with Toyotas. We absolutely love them. And this revised version is classy, it's premium, it's going to be cheap to run, but that extra price tag is something to consider. There's ways to support the channel if you click on the links below. There's ways you can buy a mug, buy a water bottle, buy a hoodie if you like, or maybe just even subscribe. Thanks for watching.